So how can you tell whether your Hydra-matic is healthy? Well, a lot of people just tell you to drive it, and if you drive it and it shifts fine, then it must be fine. Um, and that is usually the case. They're pretty hard to defeat, but sometimes you want to be a little more scientific about it. Do I need to rebuild in the next 10 years? Do I need to rebuild in the next 5 years? Do I need to rebuild like as soon as possible, or I'm going to damage something even more? Those are some kind of scientific questions that we can ask to start to validate, am I really doing it right, or do I need to go and maybe take another look? Um, my Hydra-matic has never been rebuilt. It has over 100,000 miles on it, and it's been in the car for about 70 years. It was originally parked because there was exterior damage to like the shift linkage, but I've been driving it for the last 10 years and 25-ish thousand miles, no problem. Some time in the last couple of years, I started to wonder, is it shifting kind of funny? So what we decided to do was follow the manual, do a road test, do some diagnostics, and see what Hudson thinks, basically. And here's how you can figure out how to do that. So first of all, go ahead and get yourself a manual. Now here's the club library. If you pay your dues, you get access to all of these wonderful shop manuals in here. And one of these is the transmission service manual right here, 50 to 52 Hydra-matic transmission service manual. You can use that. There's a couple of other years, makes, models in here. Just get the one that's right for your car if you have a dual range or a single range. The tests should be mostly the same, but some of them differ ever so slightly. So go ahead and grab that and flip to the diagnosis and testing section. So here you can see all the information about doing, oil level checks and stall torque tests. You can see there's some instructions for like how you should set up your own little road test route to be able to go and do these tests. But the part that we're interested in is actually not any of these, although it is very useful to go over the shift points and test conditions and things like that. What I want to show you is the pump tests. So these pressure tests are the easiest way for you to figure out, is the front pump doing what it's supposed to do? Is the rear pump doing what it's supposed to do? Are all the rubber O-rings and gaskets and seals and things like that inside my transmission healthy? Or do I need to go and replace those, basically do a rebuild? So these are the tests that you're interested in. The first one here is testing the mainline pressure. These are all tests where you're going to want a couple of things. First of all, you're going to want somebody to help you, because there's just too much to juggle by yourself. Somebody's going to be driving, somebody's going to be monitoring, and telling you what to do. So get somebody to lend you a hand. The second thing you're going to need is a pressure gauge. There is actually a threaded plug on top of the transmission. You pull back the carpet, pop off the access panel where you would do a band adjustment, remove that plug, and screw in a pressure gauge. That's what you're going to use to actually take the measurements that you need for these tests. And then the next thing you're going to need is a really accurate speedometer. I recommend using a GPS one. If you have one on your phone, you can download one on the App Store. If you don't, go ahead and get that, because probably more often than not, your speedo and your dash is not going to be accurate enough to give you the results that you want for this test. So go ahead and do yourself a favor and get that. And then, of course, you're going to need these instructions. So hopefully somebody will drive for you or go ahead and read what you're supposed to do here. And you can go ahead and do all of these tests, record the results, compare them to what you see as the what's in spec here. So let's just go over some of these to see what they actually look like and what kinds of tests you're going to be doing. Um, Here, obviously, it's just giving you directions on what you're supposed to do to actually hook up what you need for the test. So you can follow these instructions, remove the pedal, remove the gas pedal, remove the floor mat, remove the floor cover, go ahead and warm up the transmission, and then remove the pipe plug from the case and go ahead and put your gauge fitting into the transmission. And you want it to be calibrated to at least 200 psi. I'll put information in the description about the gauge that we actually used. I don't know that it's important for you to warm up the car first before you actually go and screw it in. I was a little afraid that I was going to see fluid under pressure shoot out if we did that. It didn't turn out to be the case, so probably you're fine. But I think all this is saying is before you do any testing, make sure that you have that gauge hooked up and the engine is pretty warm. So go ahead and enjoy a test drive before you even go in and start doing any of these other tests. Once you have the gauge fitted and everything that you need, speedo, somebody to help you, cars warmed up, you can actually start doing your road tests. Now, they do indicate that you can do these tests on jack stands right here. I did them on the road, and I'll show you what it looked like on the road actually after I read through each of these. But it's important to pay attention to the wording in these because some of them are kind of wacky. So the first one here, the zero throttle pressure road test. Depress the accelerator pedal to give a car speed above 30 miles an hour in fourth gear. Close the throttle and check the pressure gauge reading as the car speed drops to exactly 30 miles per hour. The gauge reading should be between 60 and 68 pounds. So again, I'm reading through all of these so that you get the picture. You should read this before you get in the car and start driving because this is a little bit confusing sounding. So basically, step A says accelerate to just above 30 miles an hour in fourth gear. So if you're in dual range, leave it in four. Make sure it's shifted all the way up into fourth. Then close the throttle. So totally let off the gas pedal basically and check the pressure gauge reading as the car speed drops to 30 miles an hour. So watch your speedometer, and as soon as it hits 30 miles an hour, you're going to go and check that gauge reading, and it should be between 60 and 68 pounds of pressure. That is a lot for one person to do. That's why you really need a second set of hands here. Somebody's going to look at the speedos, somebody's going to look at the pressure gauge, somebody's going to be looking at the road so you don't run into anything.
The first test, which is...
So the first test is depress it to give it a speed above 30 in fourth, and then let off, and is at exactly 30 miles an hour. It should be between 60 and 68.
Here we go.
And that is 55.
So 55 was the max
56.
that you saw?
Yep.
All right, 56. That sounds about right. All right, we're going to make this turn, and we're going to do that test again.
Okay.
I'm letting off the pedal now.
Okay.
And I'll let you know.
55, 55,
Now.
55, 56.
Wait. Keep
Oh, we're not there yet. 56, 55, 55.
Okay.
So that was 55 for test 6.
Okay.
Okay, or step 6.
So that's the zero throttle pressure road test. When you let off the accelerator, what does it drop to? And is that in spec? Now the full throttle pressure road test. With car moving forward approximately 30 miles an hour in fourth speed, depress the accelerator without going through the detent. So a forced 4-3 downshift. You do not want to force a 4-3 downshift. So you want to accelerate, but you don't want to jam it all the way down so that it downshifts on you. Then note the pressure gauge reading. The car speed reaches exactly 30 miles an hour. That should be between 85 and 93 pounds. So you're driving along at about 30 miles an hour in fourth speed or fourth gear, and then you're going to give it a little bit of gas, and you should see that it hits between 85 and 93 pounds at exactly 30 miles an hour.
So step 7, yes, you're going to get to about 30, and then you're going to dump it without downshifting, and then we're going to read it.
All right.
And that's when we're going to get our 78 or something like that, probably.
Okay. And our goal, though, is 80 to 93, right?
The goal for that one is 85 to 93.
5 to
Yep.
93. Okay. Come on down. That's
70,
not shifting,
80.
isn't
It was like right under 80, like 79, 80.
Ooh, that's
Yep.
good. All right, let's
Yep.
try that again. Ready?
Ready. 77, maybe.
Wow,
Yep.
we're getting really close. So we're just under it.
Well, it's supposed to be above 85.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So we're
not
off
quite
spec
to 80.
with that one.
Okay. Let's try it one last time.
Go ahead.
I'm going to get down to 29. I'm going to goose it. Now. And
Nope.
30.
Nope.
Okay. You won't hit it.
Nope, won't hit it.
Okay. What's next?
Now for the idle speed tests, the gear lever positions are going to vary slightly from the H50 and H51, which I think are the single range Hydra-matics, and the H52, which is the dual range that I'm testing on. Basically, drive versus drive 4 and drive 3. But I think the pressures are all the same for this test, so it doesn't make much of a difference. If you're in drive 4, drive 3, or low, For a dual range Hydra-matic, should be between 40 and 68 pounds. Then you should move it into reverse, and pressure in reverse should just be higher than the pressure in either drive or low. And the final portion of this test for the idle test is actually putting the gear selector into reverse, applying the foot brake, and then accelerating the engine to approximately half throttle. And this differs ever so slightly for the single range and dual range, excuse me, for the H50 and all the other models. For the H52, what I'm looking for is a minimum pressure of 125 pounds. So don't forget, you have one foot on the brake, you have the car in reverse, you're accelerating to approximately half throttle, and then you're reading 125 pounds. Don't do this in a garage. Do this out in the middle of nowhere if you can help it, where you're not gonna hit anything or anybody.
Okay, so moving through all the selectors starting from neutral, pressure should be 40 to 68. So you put it in drive.
Okay.
You're in drive.
So I'm in neutral.
Neutral, go to drive.
I'm in drive 4.
And we got like 58.
I'm in drive 3.
58.
I'm in low.
56, 57.
Okay. And then do I go to reverse yet?
Yep, you can go to reverse.
Reverse.
And we're way up, which is great. We're over 100, 110, 115.
So we're supposed to be
which is great.
125.
And then moving into our pressure in reverse should be higher than pressure in either drive or low.
Oh.
So it just has to be higher, which is good.
That's
now
great.
you're going to apply half throttle, and it should be a minimum of 125.
Trying to kill us. All right, so about half throttle.
And we're up 130, 135. So we're great.
All right.
So that passes.
Yep.
I'm going to skip over the mainline pressure for J51 here. I don't actually have that transmission to test. I'm going to do everything that says H52. So here's the rear pump pressure. This is the big one. To check the operation of rear pump only, drive the car at 45 miles an hour in fourth speed, place the manual selector lever in neutral, and turn off ignition switch. Pressure should be at least 60 pounds. This is hilarious to me. You're driving this car along at 45 miles an hour. You shut it off and put it in neutral and then take a reading. And then presumably you go and start the car again, put it in gear, and drive away. This is another one that just is an indicator that you need somebody to help you do this. But this is the one to test the rear pump. All these other ones were testing the main line pressure, the main pump, the front pump.
So next is, we're going to skip the idle tests.
Okay.
You're going to do the rear pump pressure. So get it up to 45.
Yep.
Throw it in neutral,
Right.
and then shut it off.
Okay, ready? We're 45, neutral, shut off the car.
And it's reading 55, 56.
Okay. And I restart.
Restart,
And I
put it in a fourth, and there you go. Okay, and that one was supposed to be at least 60. And so this was the one that was under before. It was about 55, I said, right?
Yep, you said 55 on that one.
Yep.
And we got 58 on an earlier one. And we were 80 when we should have been 85.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And it gives you a little bit of information here about what you should be looking for if only the rear pump is out of spec. But what you're going to do is do all of these tests, take all of your readings, compare it to all of the different specs that they provide, and see if you're in or out. And if you're out, you can go and check the diagnostic information in this guide to see what do you need to do to rebuild it. Typically, if you're going in there to rebuild one thing, you're probably just going to go and rebuild the whole thing. If you do all of these tests and everything seems healthy, I don't see a reason for you to do anything other than change the fluid, keep driving it, and enjoy the thing. But I don't think these transmissions are getting any newer. I'm surprised that mine has lasted for as long as it has. And again, I could probably keep driving it for another 10,000+ miles, but it's all about not getting stranded for me. I road trip the car a lot. And so for that purpose, I'm doing these tests to see, do I need to be doing some preventative maintenance here? Luckily, I got a spare transmission that I might go and shove in the car, and then I can rebuild this with more time. I'm not going to be off the road for long. So that's the mainline and rear pump pressure tests. These are the ones that are a little bit trickier to do than all the other ones. And you should only be doing these tests after you've done all the other diagnosis in here about making sure that your carbs are tuned up, making sure that your TV rod is adjusted correctly, make sure you've done a band adjustment. You know, this doesn't have anything to do with like slipping or jerking or early shifts or late shifts. This is really about testing whether or not the internals of the transmission is healthy. Are the pumps doing what they should, or are they starting to get tired? Is because there's really no fix for any of these diagnoses here except for rebuilding rubber parts and cork parts and uh, that kind of thing. And here are the final results. So for the main line pressure test number one, this is step 6 in the guide over here, right? I had a spec of between 60 and 68 psi when doing this test. My actual reading was anywhere between 55 and 57, 55, 56, thereabouts. So that's a little bit below spec. More significantly, that was the zero throttle test, right? That's where you actually let go of the throttle. The mainline test with full throttle here, where you don't go through the detent, step number 7 down here. This is the one where the spec is 83 to 90, or excuse me, 85 to 93 psi. My actual reading was 77, way below the safe range that I'm supposed to be in for the results of this test. My idle tests were all fine. Those are the ones down here, right where you go through all the gears. You're supposed to see that between 40 and 68 psi for all of the forward gears, right? Drive 4, drive 3, and low. And then reverse should just be higher than whatever you got for that reading. And I did. I did get 56 to 58, which is safely within that range, and reverse was way over 100. So everything is good in the idle test. The reverse acceleration test, the hilarious one, was also good. The spec said at least 125 psi. I was up over 135. So that test up here, this one went just fine. And then the rear pump test all the way down at the bottom right here, the one where you get up to 45, throw it into neutral and shut it off. The spec wanted me to have at least 60 psi on that, and I actual was 56. So I was below spec on both the rear and the mainline tests all around, with the exception of the parked tests where you're idling. So what this tells me is probably not catastrophic, but she's getting tired. Um, all of these pressures are lower than they should be. There's some loss somewhere. There isn't as much energy being pushed around inside the transmission as there's supposed to be. In the future, what could this lead to? It's possible it will lead to sloppy or slow shifts. Not something that I've been experiencing in daily driving. I'm not sure that I could tell you that I had sloppy shifts. The car runs and drives great. I pass cars on the highway. Back roads are super fun. I can jam down the pedal and it will downshift and accelerate. So everything there is fine. But this is an early warning sign to me that, hey, these parts are wearing out. This transmission's getting tired, and it's going to be time for me to address it soon. So that's what these tests are for. Again, nothing catastrophic is going wrong, but you can sort of do a health check just to see where am I and what do I need to start thinking about. So hopefully that's helpful and you can put it to good use on your tests. It is a lot of fun. Make sure you do it safely. Make sure you do it with help. Maybe even a third person to read the instructions in the back seat would be helpful. But I had a lot of fun doing these tests. It's really nice to sort of scientifically get to the bottom of some of this stuff and be able to answer the question, is what I have fine? Is what I have expected? This is kind of the engineering solution to, does it feel right? Well, let's figure it out. So thanks.